Okay, let's just jump right in with a question that I think every single investor asks themselves at some point. And it's a big one. Honestly, sometimes it feels like you need a PhD in finance just to figure out the answer.
Right? How long does it take to double your money? You ask that, and suddenly you're drowning in spreadsheets, complex formulas. It's all so intimidating. It feels like it's designed by experts for experts, Not really for the rest of us.
But what if there was a simple trick, like a back-of-the-napkin calculation you could do in literally seconds? A piece of mental math that gives you a surprisingly good answer. Well, guess what? There is, and it's called the Rule of 72. So what is this thing? At its heart, the Rules of 72 is just a super quick way to get a feel for the power of compound interest. It's an amazing little tool for getting a ballpark estimate without pulling out a calculator or getting lost in the weeds of complex math. I mean, it's so handy that even big organizations like the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission use it to teach people about finance.
Okay, but why 72? It sounds kind of random, right? Well, it's not. It's actually a clever little approximation that comes from some pretty complicated math involving logarithms and compound interest. But here's the best part. You don't need to know any of that at all. You just have to remember one simple number, 72.
And using it is ridiculously easy. Seriously, it's just 2 steps. First, you figure out your annual rate of return. The percentage you expect your investment to grow each year. Then, you just divide 72 by that number. Boom! The answer you get is roughly how many years it'll take for your money to double. That's literally all there is to it. All right, let's make this real. Let's try an example. Say you've got $10,000 and you found an investment that you think is going to give you an 8% annual return. So what do? We take our magic number, 72, we divide it by our return, which is 8, and what do we get? 9. Just like that, you know that your 10 grand will turn into 20 grand in about 9 years. How cool is that? Simple, fast, and yeah, really effective. Okay, so that's the basic idea, but let's see this rule in action. We're going to move from theory to your actual portfolio, because this is where it stops being just a cool math trick and becomes a super practical tool you can actually use. Now look at this. This table really shows you the power of just a few percentage points. It's kind of wild. Look, if you're getting a 4% return, it takes 18 years to double your money. But just bump that up to 6%, and suddenly it's only 12 years. That's 6 years faster. Get a 10% return, and you're doubling your money in a little over 7 years. That right there is the magic of compounding. And this is why it's such a great way to compare things. If you look at historical numbers, U.S. stocks, like the S&P 500, have doubled about every 9 years. Now look at bonds or CDs. It takes them twice as long, sometimes even longer. Just by doing this simple math, you get a much clearer picture of the different risks and rewards you're looking at. Okay, but here's the thing. This incredible force, compounding, it's not always on your side. There's a dark side of this rule. The exact same math that can make you rich can also work against you. And you absolutely need to understand this part. See, math doesn't care if it's an asset or a liability. Compounding works just as hard, just as relentlessly on the things that are costing you money. We're talking about high-interest debt and that quiet, sneaky thief of wealth, inflation. And man, when you put them side by side, the difference is just staggering. So you've got your investment chugging along at 8%, doubling in 9 years. That's great. But that credit card debt at 18%, that doubles in just 4 years. That's why it feels impossible to get ahead sometimes. Like you're on a treadmill that keeps getting faster. The math is literally fighting you. And then there's inflation. The Rule of 72 paints a really scary but important picture here. Let's say inflation is at 6%. You do the math. 72 divided by 6 is 12. That means the buying power of your money gets cut in half in just 12 years. So that cash you have stashed away, it's not just sitting there. It's actively losing its value day by day. All right, so we've seen the good and we've seen the bad, the power and the, let's call it the peril. Now we got to talk about the fine print, because like any shortcut, the Rule of 72 is great, but it's not the complete picture. So here's what you've got to keep in mind. First, it's an estimate, a really good one, but it's not exact. It's not a precise calculation. It also assumes your return rate is the same every single year, which, let's be real, almost never happens in the real world. Plus, it completely ignores things like taxes, fees, and inflation, which, yeah, they definitely take a bite out of your returns. And finally, it's most accurate for returns somewhere in that 6 to 10% range. Now, for you math nerds out there who want to get a little more precise, there are other versions. You'll hear about the rule of 69, which is a bit better for continuously compounding interest, or even the rule of 73 for really high interest rates. But honestly, for that quick and dirty mental math, the rule of 72 is the king for a reason.
And it's not some new thing either. This rule is old, like really old. It was mentioned in a math book all the way back in 1494. Think about that. The fact that we're still using it today, that huge financial groups are still teaching it, that tells you just how timeless and useful this little trick is.
So there you have it, the rule of 72. It's a fantastic tool, right? A brilliant way to understand how to grow your money. But as we finish up here, I want to leave you with this thought. Knowing the math is powerful, for sure. But what's even more powerful is knowing what wealth actually means to you. And that's something no formula can tell you.